At 9:30 a.m. on Valentine's Day in 2001, a highly respected doctor in Oklahoma City placed a frantic 911 call from his upscale suburban home, a dwelling that from the street projected the image of an absolutely perfect life. He was Dr. John Hamilton, a trusted obstetrician and gynecologist, and he told the dispatcher that he had just found his wife, Susan, barely alive and covered in blood on the bathroom floor. Paramedics and police rushed into a house adorned with the sentimental trappings of the holiday, fresh flowers, red ribbons, and loving cards, only to encounter a scene of extreme, brutal violence that instantly shattered the illusion of domestic peace. The critical anomaly was the physical evidence. There was no sign of forced entry, no smashed windows, no broken locks, leading investigators to the immediate, cold conclusion that whoever murdered Susan Hamilton did not need to break into the house because they were already inside her life. The public story of John and Susan was carefully constructed around success, wealth, and community involvement, a narrative sustained by his esteemed position and their social activities as a matched, polished set. Susan, meanwhile, held an emotionally charged and controversial job working part-time at a local abortion clinic, providing a stark counterpoint to John's mainstream medical reputation. Despite the exterior of security and status, friends later noted subtle behavioral changes. Susan began to shrink away, growing quieter at social events, sometimes skipping them entirely, while John grew noticeably more defensive when asked about their home life. This low-level curiosity among their peers registered as an unexplained difference, a vague impression that something felt distinctly off, but it was not enough to provoke intervention or serious alarm. The first undeniable crack in the facade did not appear in public arguments or police reports. It emerged in ink within a Valentine's Day card Susan wrote before the day she died. That handwritten message was not one of pure romance, but carried doubt and questions, hinting that the flawless relationship everyone admired was privately fractured beyond simple repair. She indicated that things had changed between them, shifting the card's function from a sentimental ritual to a warning left in cursive, a clear sign that her emotional withdrawal was a calculated response to a growing private crisis.
Before we go on, a small favor, please subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot. Thank you, and let's continue with the story.
John's simultaneous card, in contrast, spoke of his love and a desire to work on things, revealing a person attempting to control the emotional damage and pull her back to the expected relationship on his terms. The fundamental betrayal at the heart of the marriage involved Susan's suspicion that her husband was having an affair not just with any woman, but with a striptease dancer who was also one of his patients. This combination introduced a severe power imbalance, crossing professional boundaries as a respected physician and compounding the violation of their marital trust. Susan had seen or heard details that confirmed her uneasiness, identifying an intimacy that violated the expected clinical relationship between doctor and patient. The couple continued to appear as a united, affluent unit, attending social functions and maintaining the perfect marriage image. But that silence and relentless performance worked directly in John's favor, masking the deep collapse of trust from the outside world. For Susan, the pressure of maintaining this immaculate public presentation while grappling with hidden suspicion caused her reality to split into two irreconcilable halves. On one side stood the successful, admired man everyone else respected, and on the other lay the private messages, the unexplained absences, and the sickening feeling that his emotional life existed somewhere else. Her dilemma was trapped within a social expectation that demanded she be quiet, reasonable, and undramatic, making it feel unfair to accuse a man whom friends universally described as gentle and steady. That widespread perception of John's mild-mannered nature became a dangerous social override, providing him with an extra layer of public benefit of the doubt and lulling people into assuming he could never be capable of violence. She did not immediately run screaming from the house. Instead, Susan carefully raised the issues, hinting at her concerns and testing precisely how much of the truth she could articulate without completely destroying the life they had built together. This process of accommodating the marital lie involves a subtle, stepwise climb up a ladder of denial, beginning with brushing aside early suspicions and then accepting explanations that clearly did not feel right. Many women in her position stay, even when they no longer feel emotionally safe, because leaving threatens a total upheaval of their identity, finances, and social standing. Her decision to stay, while grappling with fear and doubt documented in that Valentine's card, ultimately meant the window of safety closed, forcing her to confront the impending crisis inside the home. When the argument turned violent that morning, the resulting crime scene bore the physical markers of an intense struggle, indicating that Susan's death was neither clean nor peaceful. The fact that no outside intruder was necessary to gain access was the central pattern that focused the investigation inward, instantly making John the primary figure in the ensuing tragedy. He presented himself as the desperate husband, attempting to frame the extensive blood on his clothes and even in his car as proof of devotion, claiming it came from his attempt to perform CPR to save the woman he loved. This attempted inversion of evidence into loyalty is a common tactic where perpetrators manipulate incriminating details to construct a heroic narrative. Investigators, however, relied on mechanical facts, recognizing that blood is objective data, not emotional sentiment, and that the angle, distribution, and patterns tell a story independent of the human voice. They had to determine if the blood pattern matched someone kneeling over a body to push on a chest, or if it indicated someone much nearer to the violence when the initial impact occurred. The sheer brutality of the murder, bludgeoning combined with strangulation using his own necktie, suggested not the work of a distracted intruder, but an intensely personal rage and overkill. The crime's timing on Valentine's Day was also not mere symbolism. It was a psychological constraint, a day designed for lowered emotional guards where Susan would reasonably allow her husband into her personal space without question.
Before we go on, a small favor, please subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot. Thank you, and let's continue with the story.
Prior to the violence, Susan had already felt the subtle, sickening internal shift, experiencing the physical alarm of a tight chest and disrupted sleep when John's behavior became inconsistent. That initial instinct screams, "That's odd," or "Why is he defensive?" before the logical part of the brain can fully form the word danger. The social override then commands a woman to be fair, to be reasonable, and to not add to the stress of a highly respected professional. This led her to make unconscious micro-choices for safety, such as hiding jewelry and keeping her deepest fears locked away in her own head instead of articulating them out loud. Her path of accommodation, where she prioritized his need for image over her own emotional security, led her to believe that confronting the truth could destroy everything she had built, making leaving feel like a catastrophic threat. The potential for divorce represented a far greater peril to John than simple separation, as it threatened the annihilation of his status, his curated life, and the financial control he exerted. For a man whose status and comfort depended heavily on the public pretense that everything was fine, Susan's growing doubt and her increasing willingness to consider independence felt like an existential threat that required immediate, violent silencing. The surrounding friends and neighbors saw hearts and flowers in the months leading up to the crime, remaining completely blind to the strain and fear that the private arguments and deepening suspicions had created behind closed doors. The investigation's timeline reconstruction further tightened the noose around John's version of events, scrutinizing his claimed movements between the hospital and the house on that fateful morning. While he recounted a story of 2 trips and a horrifying discovery, the phone logs, traffic analysis, and work records suggested he had a much larger, concealed window of time at home than he ever admitted. That hidden time provided sufficient opportunity for the full confrontation about the affair, the ensuing argument over divorce, and the savage escalation that led to the violent outcome. Furthermore, the physical scene itself suggested a calculated pause and control. Forensic experts noted that the 911 call's frantic pitch did not align with the composed, staged nature of the bathroom. Crucially, the blood spatter found on John's clothing was inconsistent with someone kneeling over a victim to perform CPR. Transfer patterns showed he had been intimately close to Susan during the moment of physical impact. The subtle presence of a wet rag and a wipe pattern on the wall contradicted his claims of immediacy and frantic desperation, telling investigators that someone had attempted a deliberate, conscious cleanup to rewrite the scene before calling for help. Someone performing life-saving measures does not pause to tidy or wipe away evidence. The attempt at staging was, in the mind of the forensic team, the most incriminating detail. The initial arrangement of Susan's body even appeared to be a form of strategic misdirection, suggesting sexual assault to divert attention from the actual, personal motive. This entire event was built upon a structural failing in human perception. We tend to trust the public role, the doctor, the respected professional, over the quiet, alarming pattern of private behavior. John isolated Susan not by physically locking her away, but by relentlessly controlling the narrative, using his status and the outside pressure from clinic protesters as a protective stress cover. He knew she would hesitate to accuse him of an affair with a patient due to the professional fallout, and he successfully reframed all her fears as paranoia or being unsupportive. If she chose to leave, she risked being labeled as the woman who abandoned a good man under siege, a maze where every exit was marked by guilt. Susan's instincts, which led her to voice her fears in the card and confide in her daughter, were later validated as rational observations, not emotional overreactions. Her quiet actions built a vital record, proving that the marriage was not the fairy tale everyone believed, and stripping away the lie of perfection that had cost her life. In the end, the weight of the circumstantial and physical evidence, including the unforced entry, the deep marital strain, and the forensic interpretation of the blood spatter, convinced the jurors that John's explanation was untrue. The system reached its conclusion, and the mild-mannered doctor with the unblemished reputation was found guilty of murder. The community that once saw only a flawless couple was forced to confront the structural reality that beneath a polished surface lay enough rage, entitlement, and desire for control to end a woman's life. While John Hamilton now resides within an institution defined by his conviction rather than his white coat, the pattern that led to Susan's death persists in the wider world. The essential lesson for cognitive mastery is that the appearance of perfection, especially one that leaves no room for honest conflict or accountability, must be recognized as an intrinsic danger sign. You will almost always sense the shift, the sudden secrecy, the private cruelty, the partner who has too much to lose if the truth emerges, long before anyone else, and that feeling is data that must be trusted over reputation. The facade a controlling person builds is for them. Your safety depends entirely on your willingness to believe what your instincts already know and to act on that knowledge before it is too late. All interpretations are based on publicly available information. This content does not make medical or diagnostic claims, nor does it speculate beyond established evidence.
If you'd like to keep exploring cases like this, there's another one waiting for you on screen. I think you'll find it meaningful. Click on it, and thank you for watching.